Hello, aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron with you. It was 2001, maybe. Guy Ritchie, you know Guy Ritchie, right? Guy Ritchie came to me in a dream and he said, dude, you need to make a movie. That was the beginning of me doing a movie project where I ended up interviewing. There's a long story. I'm skipping ahead though. I ended up interviewing a series of, quote, enlightened teachers. Now, enlightened teachers, we could debate that word enlightened. Let's just say they were clear, they were elevated, they were amazing folks. And I was interviewing them for a specific purpose in this process, this project. And weird, at the end of each interview, I started asking them all this question. What does it take to create enlightened parenting? Now, mind you, I was quite a ways away from becoming a parent myself. I had no desire other than I knew I would at some point, but I was not anywhere near that. And here's what's astounding. Every single one of those teachers, they did not respond the same to any of the other questions I asked them. However, and with that question, enlightened parenting, same response from all of them. They said, working on yourself. Okay, working on, I don't know, I'm not sure if I love that phrasing. Work tends to be something that a lot of people don't like. Most of us have associations with work. And if you say playing on yourself, that sounds weird. If you say playing with yourself, that sounds even weirder. And going to the title of this video, self-mastery or self-understanding, right? What is it? Lao Tzu said, he who understands others has power. He who understands himself has superpower. I messed that up royally, but the point is the same. In any case, part of how this came to me today specifically is I got the news yesterday, 2 days ago, that I need to move home. Now, since my daughter and I moved to Maui 6-7 years now, we haven't been in a place where it made sense for us to buy a home. So we've been renters, right? And there are, as you know, pros and cons with owning, pros and cons with renting. One of the, quote, cons of renting is, well, you know what? You got a lease, you might get kicked out. And so I had the experience where I've been in a wonderful, amazing, delightful home for the last 2 years. I love it. I would not want to change. And the guy who built the house, who owns the house, said, hey, you know what? It's time for me to move back into the house. So fair enough. Stoic philosophy counsels us well. No point, no benefit, in fact, much detriment to put energy into things we can't change. So that's all to say, this morning, when I was starting my, quote, self-creation process, right? Call it morning ritual, call it practice. My favorite way of describing it is supreme self-sacrament. Sacrament being activities, holy, ritualistic activities. For what purpose? To create my supreme self, me at my very best. A whole lot we could say about that. I'll leave that aside for the moment. So 4:45, 5 a.m., I sit down at my desk, this same desk where I am now. I get out my notebook and I start to write. And one of the things I do is declare who I am. I use my Supreme Self Manifesto to declare who I am. And one of the things I do with that is I declare who I am, who I'm becoming, and then I listen inside for what I'm feeling and for other parts of me that might say, for instance, one of the things I realized yesterday, I'm kind of not looking forward to this moving house thing. You know, it's a lot of work and I gotta find a new place and it's expensive and gotta clean up and you gotta pack things and get rid of things. And hey, I already have a full life. Where am I gonna fit the time in for that? Well, okay, no choice, gotta do it. So don't worry about that. And however, and this morning as I start down, one of the first things I do is inquire within, as in, what's going on? What's going on inside? So the first level of self-mastery, self-understanding is being aware, uncovering what's going on inside. And I realized, like, okay, even though I know nothing to do about it, still I don't wanna. I don't feel like it. Okay. So what am I feeling? Zillion dollar question. And I say, as one who has many times in my life, especially in the past, said, what's going on? Intellectually, understanding intellectually, even when I had the great blessing of sitting on stage with Byron Katie, 1997, I'd been doing the work for quite some time, got to sit with her on stage and inquire about the negative stories I had about my body. I got amazing freedom right down to here, intellectual. I didn't feel it. And so I struggled with body image and weight and that for many years more. Not because Byron Katie did anything wrong, obviously, because I just didn't have the courage to feel, right? Because there were negative feelings or painful feelings around it. So I have trained and continue to train myself to be sensitive to what am I feeling, right? Because if I don't get to that, I can't create anything. Trying to create something on top of some kind of negative feeling or blockage, well, it's like building a home on quicksand. So one of the first things almost every day in self-creation, supreme self-sacrament is, what am I feeling? And knowing I could feel it, there was something in me that was contracted. I made the declaration about a great home creation process, and it made sense to me intellectually. And then when I got to the feeling, it was like, oh, I don't want to. Okay, why is that? What else? And this is the process. I invite more. I say, okay, I feel like I don't want to. What else? And then I give myself permission to hear from that voice, and you could call it the part X voice, the weak voice, the complaining voice, the non-spiritual voice, the little kid voice, the ego voice, whatever you want to say. The one that if we were in spiritual bypass, we would say, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm spiritual, everything's fine, wonderful, rainbows, unicorns, butterflies. Spiritual bypass is seductive, especially if you've been around new agey or spiritual communities. It's very popular. And as Debbie Ford put it so well in the title of her book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. I think that's the title. You get the point though, right? The light chasers sometimes miss the shadow, the darkness. And that's what we can create in this sacrament, this ritual of saying, how do I feel? And then giving voice to the negative. Right? Because in the negative, there is power, and the power is largely in unfurling, unraveling, unrolling, letting it out, following the trail. Okay, I don't want to. It's a lot of work. Um, what if I don't find a place? I'm afraid that it's going to be too much. I'm afraid. And then, so I went down this rabbit hole. I won't take you the whole way through it. And one of the things I came to is, oh, it's always comes down to the last minute. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Always comes down to the last minute. Yeah, you know what? I've had this tendency to procrastinate. I flashed back to when I was in college. Right? I got great grades. However, I made it this big drama right at the end, the last day before the paper was due, staying up all night doing all this stuff. And even though I managed to pull off the great grades, I didn't do as well as I could do because I made it last minute and I built all this stress around it, and that's debilitating. So, okay, what's underneath that? And then I realized I'm lazy. That was the voice. I'm lazy, right? And you ask anybody, going all the way back to the first partner I ever lived with, Peggy, she's like, you're a workaholic. And I'm like, huh, I always thought I was lazy. And then I realized just this morning, like there's still been a part of me thinking I'm lazy and thus needing to create some drama and some extra work, right? to prove some childhood voice that told me I was lazy, that I believed and accepted. So, what's the biggest gift of this? Just this morning in the process for myself, going through those voices, getting to that place of feeling like, wow, look at the unresourceful thoughts I've had. Look at the self-judgment, the self-recrimination, the ways I've been beating myself up. And I felt into that and it was like, oh shit, painful. Sobs, tears. Right? And then what happens when I let that out? Then I'm free. Right? Then I'm free. Then I've got a foundation. Then I've got solidity. Then I can create. And the problem that is there for so many of us is stuff we don't want to feel. And so we push it down and it locks us up. I don't want to feel this. I push it down. It doesn't mean that it's not affecting us. It is only always affecting us in a worse way because we're not aware of it. We just say things like, oh, it's good enough. That's as good as it can get. I'm the kind of person who, that's not freedom. Right? What we're here for, freedom, love, creation, anything is possible. Not on a foundation of quicksand, though. Not on a foundation of self-judgment. Anything is possible if we have the courage to declare, to listen, to release the judgments, to forgive ourselves, to love ourselves. So going back to what I started this video with, what did those enlightened teachers mean when they said work on yourself? Why is that so vital for parenting and likewise in business? Because parenting and business, they both mean being present, being creative, being attentive to what is, working with the challenges that are there. It takes awareness. There's no guidebook. You can't get a book that says, here's how you create your business, do this, this, and this. Yeah, you can. There are lots of books like that, but it's not going to work, not on its own, because every situation is different. What do you need? You need judgment, discernment, the ability to make decisions, to learn, to adapt. Same thing in parenting, right? There are lots of great books on parenting. I know I read lots of them and they help. And still, there's no step-by-step. There's no play-by-play because every child, every situation is different. So self-mastery, self-understanding, listening, being attentive to the voices from that solid foundation, creating ourselves. It's so beautiful. It's so powerful. I hope, y'all, that this makes sense. I'm so grateful that you're interested in self-mastery, self-understanding. That's the key to creating a vibrant, thriving life. If I can be supportive to you in that, if you would like more self-love, more self-mastery, more creation of what you want, business, parenting, life, let's connect. I would love to support you with that. I'd love to have a conversation. You can direct message me here or email daniel@danielaaron.com. Y'all, thank you for being a champion of creation. I love you, and I look forward to when we connect